Well, good morning. We're going to do a live video feed right now to talk to you about your homeschooling adventures. I know a lot of parents out there are completely um, sideswiped by this coronavirus and all of its implications, including children going home from school now or being sent home from school and not being um, given the tools, the parents not being given the tools that they need to serve their kids. So, a lot of parents out there. So I want to go through this with you guys and just talk about it. I have some ideas for you. I want to share some tips, some insights. I'm going to be doing a video every day this week and probably longer. But every morning at 9 a.m. Just let's start the day together and see what we can do as a community online for our kids, because really that's what we're all about. So I want to start today with a story that some of you may already know. If you know me, you know that my husband suffered 3 strokes when he was playing the strongest man in the world on the show Hercules. And that was a disaster that derailed his life. And he had a 3-year-long recovery. He couldn't walk properly. He couldn't think straight. He really struggled with migraines and lightning flashes and insomnia and anxiety, and it just went on and on. And yet, through all of that, he became stronger. He became better. It improved him as an individual because really the best lessons are the hardest won. Wouldn't you agree? You know, our job is to accept the challenges and then step up and live up to them. And so I would hope that in this challenge that you would find the way to do that, because I think you can get more out of it than you maybe can imagine. That would be my hope. All right. So this morning we're going to talk about how to set up for home education, because you're all going, what am I supposed to do? Right? And I remember when I was saying that also for myself, because I had reached a point. If you don't know my story, it's in my book, They're Your Kids. I had reached a point where the school was not performing for my child, which is pretty much where you are right now. School's not doing much for your kid. Now, there are some schools that are having online classes, which is great. But there are a lot of schools, there are a lot of public schools that aren't. And so parents are just out of luck. They're just high and dry. So I reached that point and I was like, wow, the school's just not getting it done. How am I going to do what I think needs to be done for my child, the education that I think he needs? How am I going to get that done if the professionals can't even get it done, right? And so that's where we are today. We have a lot of parents out there who are going, how am I going to get this done for my kid when even the professionals don't seem to be capable? Now, that is to say that they're incapable right now because of the circumstances, right? But I would put to you that the system is not getting it done. And basically everybody admits that the system's kind of broken and it's not working. And of course, it's not the teacher's fault. They're just they're just, stuck in this system, but the system itself is struggling. And so I encourage you to use this moment in time as an opportunity to explore homeschooling for a longer period of time. And you don't have to make that decision today. But I'm just saying, let's embrace it and let's give it a shot. Let's give it a good old college try, as they say. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is setting up. Like, let's get set up. You have to set yourself up for success. So let's do that. First thing you need to know, there is no formal training necessary to home educate. And as we've seen out in our culture today, a lot of home educators are super successful. A lot of home educated children are super successful. And so it doesn't require any specific training because the home education paradigm is to enable the innate curiosity in your child to express itself, and for your child and for you to basically encourage your child in their exploration and their learning experience, so that they become self-teachers, self-taught. Okay, so I know a lot of parents, when they first start home educating, in fact, I was one of these parents, although I didn't go hog wild, but I know a lot of parents go out, and I had a friend who did this. She went and bought old desks, kids' desks, where you have the seat and the thing, the little desk thing that's attached. And she had 4 kids, and so she went and bought 4 desks. And it was so exciting that the kids would be able to sit at their desks, and they had their little pencil holder thing and their little notebook that they were going to write and stuff. And she actually put a blackboard. She took a room in her house and she dedicated it as a classroom. Don't do that. Like, it's cute and it's fun, and you feel like you're being proactive because you're putting the makeup on the thing, but don't do that. It's totally unnecessary. Do choose a spot in your house. Do understand that most home educators I know were what we call reluctant home educators. Yes, they made the choice themselves, but they didn't want to make that choice. They weren't looking to make that choice. So understand that many of them said they would never homeschool their kids. And now they do, and it was their choice to do so. So just because it wasn't your choice to be here right now, you may discover that you really like it. Okay, what do they say in real estate? Location, location, location. So I encourage you to pick a spot in your house for the kids to hang out and for you to hang out with the kids. I'm making the assumption that your kids are younger. Okay, I will get to the older kids in a little bit, but assuming that your kids are younger and they need a little bit more supervision, let's pick a spot in the house. I always liked the kitchen. We have a kitchen table. I like gathering around the kitchen table. It makes it easy to get started in the morning. So I used to start our day at 9 a.m. and I insisted that the kids were seated at the kitchen table, having had breakfast already at 9. That eventually relaxed, and so they could bring their breakfast, but they still had to be seated at 9 so that we could get our day started. I started the day with a devotional. We read a little bit of Bible, and we discuss it, and then we open our day in prayer, and we pray for our day and for the day for others. We've been praying a lot for the nation and for the victims of COVID-19 lately. So that's something that I would suggest. It's a great way to start the day. It's a great way for the family to come together, and of course it brings the family together. And then the family starts to feel like, wow, we're kind of a unit, and the kids start to feel that, and that's just a good thing. So that's your first thing. Now, if you want to start your day in your office, for instance, because you have work to do, then bring the kids in the office and bring in, look, this is all temporary. So let's just see what we can get done to make the best of this for the time that we have. Bring an extra table into your office and have your kids sit at the table and tell them that they're going to go to work today. Little kids love to feel like they're going to work. And by the way, please understand, school is not 7.5 hours a day. The institution of school is 7.5 hours a day. But there are a couple of paradigms that we have that I'm hoping that this experience for you with your kids will dispel. And one of them is that learning has to happen inside a classroom. I have more to say on that, but I'm reserving that for tomorrow because I have some comments prepared for tomorrow, and I want to get through this. So For younger kids, I want to describe for you my day. I've gotten a lot of emails, a lot of questions from parents about how to be organized, how to get their kids organized. What are they supposed to do? So I want to take a few minutes, and I want to point out that a lot of this is already in my book. They're Your Kids. So if you want to pick up a copy of my book, it's at samsorbo.com, and you can get a copy there. And I know it's like speed read it now, right? Because you're in the middle of this. But the second half of the book talks all about how we went about home education. Okay. So a lot of what I'm going to say right now is in the book, but I'll tell you, I had 3 young kids. So say 5th grade, 3rd grade, and 1st grade, let's just say. They were 2 grades apart, so approximately that. When the kids were that age, we would start the day at 9. We all were doing Latin, kiddie Latin, like silly kiddie Latin, just learning some Latin prayers, learning some Latin sentences, that kind of thing. Not a whole lot of grammar. But what I would do is now kids, for kids that age, school is less than 3 hours a day. They really shouldn't be like sitting and writing for more than 3 hours a day. I would bring my laptop and sit at the kitchen table with them, and then I did Shirley Grammar with all of my kids. So that's a grammar program that I happen to adore. They don't pay me. They probably should. I just love it, and the kids love it. They go crazy for it. Why do we teach grammar to young kids? Because it teaches them that language has a logic to it. It teaches them organization. That's a very important thing for them to learn, that language is organized and not just a mess of words that you throw at a page. So we would start with Shirley. Now, each of the kids had their own Shirley book. They were at different levels. So I would start with 1, and I would say, well, with the older one, I would say, okay, you read this. Boom, done with him. Second one, I would say, you do this. First grader, I would go over the lesson with her. So the first one was probably reading ahead to learn the lesson. The middle child was probably redoing something that he had done wrong the day before, or just redoing it to review. And then the third one was, the third one got the lesson first. Or with the Latin, the older 2 were still doing the Latin, and I started with the first one, and we did the lesson with her, and then I cut her loose. You go do these sentences now. And then I would go back to the first. So basically you juggle them, but it's not at all overwhelming. It's actually very simple. I mean, obviously, depending on your child, depending on their level of discipline, depending on your level of discipline, right? So, and I say this in my book, I say, homeschooling requires discipline. Yes. Discipline of the parent and discipline of the child. So it becomes a two-way street. So you learn that in order to be disciplined, you must discipline your child. So you do that. And then when they were doing their work, I would be doing my emails and working on my book or whatever at my computer, sitting with them. Take breaks. You know what? You did a great job on that. You go outside now, and you got 10 minutes, and I'm going to set a timer, that kind of thing. And they, oh, yay, we're going to do this. We're going to go outside. We're going to go in the backyard, or I'm going to color for a while, or that kind of thing. We also did, with my kids, I did Story of the World. Story of the World comes on CDs. So I could literally just put it on, and it would read to them the book. And my older kids would follow along in the book, or they would read the book while the younger kids were listening to the CD. So that took care of some history. And history in our school system today is tough because it's so structured and rigid. and biased to a fair degree and stuff. It's a little bit compromised, I would say. So I would urge you to find a really good history program that you really enjoy. By the way, there is so much available on YouTube. Put on a documentary for your kid if you need a break. If you need an hour, find a good documentary for them. In fact, my husband's documentary called Before the Wrath is #1 on Amazon for like the third straight week in documentaries. But we found out today it's #9 overall. It's a #9 movie, and it's a documentary on Amazon. So you could stream a documentary for your kids to give yourself a little bit of a break. All right, so I talked about the how I did it with 3 kids. I talked about how long it should be. If your kids are younger than, say, 5th or 6th grade, really 3 hours, maybe a little bit longer if you've got like precocious kids who are really, fascinated with what they're reading, that kind of thing. But don't be thinking that you have to sit with your kids for 7.5 hours a day. No, please don't do that. Don't do that to them. Don't do that to you. It's not worth it. Take some time to make lunch with them. Find a recipe. Make sure you have the ingredient. You can actually search recipes online today with the ingredients. So you just say, I've got chicken and I've got sour cream and I've got Parmesan or something. And it'll show you how to make chicken Parmesan. Not really, but something like that, right? So you can engage them in doing things with the family things together. Okay. I got an email from somebody, what if you don't have textbooks? Which I find so amazing. So schools are going more and more to online. And I find that, I'll just say, I find that highly suspicious, because what happens is the parents can't know what's going on in the schools. I would never turn my child over to any kind of authority figure, but any figure whatsoever, and allow them access to my child, unfettered access to my child, without them providing to me exactly what they're like, at least the opportunity to see what they're doing with the kid. I don't understand that. So I'm just raising that point. Not that I don't trust teachers themselves, although there have been teachers who have gone to jail for very long periods of time for the things that they've done to children in public school. So I don't know that you can just issue a blanket statement that all teachers are fantastic and trustworthy, because there's evidence that disputes that. I would say most teachers are great. But I still don't know what they're not showing me. So yeah. So what do you do if you don't have textbooks? Okay. And this goes for older kids, obviously. It goes for younger kids as well. Get them classical literature. The classical literature is chewy. You have to work at reading it, which there's nothing bad about that. That's only good. Age-appropriate literature. But the good stuff, the stuff that has lasted the test of time, right? And there are plenty of resources for that. I will say here, Beautiful Feet Books, which is bfbooks.com. They don't pay me either. They're just a great website. They actually sell the books there. You don't have to get them there. They've got great lists that go by grade of classic literature that's appropriate for children. There's no inappropriate content in the literature, unlike some of the public schools that we see what they're giving our kids. So get them set on classic literature and just require an hour of reading a day, or for the younger kids, 45 minutes, or for the older kids, an hour and a half or 2 hours. Get them hooked on reading. For the younger kids, work on memorization, okay? Younger kids are parrots. That's why it's called the Poll-Parrot phase. They love to memorize things. I remember when I was a kid, nobody gave me stuff to memorize. I just memorized every TV commercial I ever saw. I just had them all memorized. When I got older, we were asked to memorize the Gettysburg Address. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We are now engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that notion or any notion. So my point is, I still remember having memorized the Gettysburg Address. And that is an amazing piece of English literature that we ought to be engaging our children in committing to memory. It's just good for their brains to do that kind of a thing. So they can memorize poems. They can memorize the Declaration of Independence or the Gettysburg Address or Marcus Aurelius? No, Mark Antony's Shakespeare speech or a Shakespearean sonnet. They don't have to even understand what they're saying, okay? Or a Latin prayer or a Latin poem. Or, the options are myriad. You just need to do a little bit of research. Once again, Beautiful Feet Books is a great resource for that kind of a thing. Math. Let's talk about math for a little bit. Yes, math is important. Gosh knows, I just love math. That's that's how I started my whole learning journey, was on math. I just adored math. But math is pretty easy. Now, I know that you think that math is hard. Well, maybe you don't. There are lots of people who think that math is hard. And the first thing they hit you with when you tell them that you're a homeschooler, they say, well, what about calculus? As if everybody and his nephew study calculus. First of all, calculus is, it's an advanced class, math class for seniors, I think. I studied calculus in high school. I tutored it in college. So I'm not the person you should ask, well, what about calculus? Because I absolutely adore calculus and I can't wait to tutor it again. But that's not what we're talking about here, okay? If we're talking about younger kids, get them a math workbook. Just go online, or, well, if you can get to a bookstore like Barnes & Noble or whatever, which you probably can't at this point, but you can, typically math workbooks, if you get them online, you can look inside. But if your kids are really young, just write out some problems for them and have them do them. Give them some manipulatables. What are they called? Coins. Coins are great for doing math. And just show them how math relates to the physical reality, right? Because math is spiritual, basically. Math is just you don't think of it as a physical thing, but when you put it into a physical expression, that's when the kids typically can start to understand it. The other thing is, if you don't learn math at the age of 10, it's a lot easier to learn the same stuff at the age of 12. So you could also take the approach that you're just not going to sweat it because your kid will get it eventually. But if you're dead set on mainstreaming them back into the mainstream public school system, then you want to guard against them falling behind, lest they start to have social problems because they're not up to date on things. So if that's the case, and what's amazing is if your kids have now come home and they have no textbooks. I mean, I'm amazed at the situation of some of the kids now today. No textbooks, and the parents don't even know sort of where the kids are in terms of their learning progress, right? By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to text me. I love to have the conversation. And if you want to go to samsorbo.com, you can email me. If you want to subscribe here, please do, because I will be putting out more of these videos. I'm going to keep doing the live videos that are sort of a more intensive. We're going to do an intensive all week for parents to get you really sort of engaged in the homeschool journey to help you on your way. because it's a phenomenal journey. It'll change your life for the better. And so I started this with the story of my husband's strokes. You would never think that that somebody might be grateful for having had 3 strokes. And I think that even today, that might be a claim that's a little bit aggressive. But in terms of what he gleaned from going through that experience, and me, I mean, I went through the experience with him. Sometimes hard things work out really well. And so I would hope that this would be one of those hard things that you discover works out really well. So let's see. We talked about questions. We talked about textbooks. Tomorrow we're going to talk about loss versus opportunity. And so you'll find out more tomorrow, but we're going to talk about what some of the schools are planning to do for you guys who are just sort of left high and dry, sort of stranded. There's really no reason to feel stranded, because part of the reason that you feel stranded is because you've grown up in an environment that has taught you that school only happens in school, that learning only happens in school. And that's just really not true. I'm going to say this, I've said this before, I'll end up saying it again. 60% of jobs require sales. We don't teach sales in school. So what is it about career readiness that they don't understand? The old adage, those who can't teach. I wonder what they're teaching our kids with so many children graduating from college who can't get a job. So I just want to encourage you to consider that this might be the greatest blessing for you personally and for your entire family. So we talked a little bit about how you stagger working with your kids. You stagger it. You can, if they're all young enough to basically sit at the table with you, then you start that way. As the kids get older, or if you're starting with older kids, then it actually becomes easier, because you say, go read this book for an hour and a half. Off you go. And then come back and talk to me about it. And you can fake that you've read the book, or you can actually read the book. You can certainly go online and read some of the cliff notes about the book, to have a discussion with your child, or to encourage them to write a paper about the book. The kids can be doing educational activities without needing to be supervised by an instructor in an institution. You are more than capable of doing that. You are capable of reading an essay. You are capable of commenting on an essay. Will you give the greatest analysis and commentary on that essay that's ever been given? Probably not. Probably not me either. But some commentary. And let's talk a little bit about that. So you're dealing with your kids, and they're trying to get their work done, and you need to offer them some, what's the word I'm looking for? Criticism. So we want to be careful with our criticism, because we don't want to come down heavy-handed on our kids, right? Sorry, I'm getting parched. In Classical Conversations, which is the homeschool group that I joined several years ago, I love their paradigm. I love the way that they approach education. They have a classical Christian education program. And from 7th grade on, it's a full-on 6 hours a day kind of a study program. And we meet one day out of the week in community for 30 weeks a year. So that's Classical Conversations. Also, unpaid advertising for them because I love them. Okay, so they have a critique paradigm. So you offer critique in this manner. They call it a glow and a grow. And what that means is you say what the person did well, and not but, and where they can improve. So, especially for younger kids, this is especially important. And by the way, one piece, especially for younger kids, one piece of advice, or sorry, two, one glow, one grow. So, wow, I can't believe you finished your writing exercise so quickly. That's fantastic. And you can make that A rounder so it looks more like an A, right? So it's, this was great and this is where you can improve. And so it becomes overall a pleasant experience to be critiqued, right? The last thing you want to do is say, you finished so quickly, or wow, you did the whole page, good for you, but your A's are so skinny, it's hard to tell that they're A's. Because right after the but, the moment the child hears but, everything else goes out the window and it doesn't count anymore. So we don't say but, we say and. The other thing that's a great technique to do with the kid is to say, how do you think you did? Give me a glow and a grow. Give me a plus and a, well, it's better to say glow and grow. Like where are you shown and where you can improve. And so you ask the child first, because you don't want them to mimic you. Well, I should have made my A's, rounder. By the way, plenty of resources online for children for handwriting practice. And as I recall, we aren't even teaching cursive writing in classes. Now, there are lots of people who say, well, they don't need to learn cursive writing, but I think they should. I think it's good to learn skills. My kids will not grow up to be concert pianists or even any kind of performing musician, but they all take piano and they all tried to stop. I'll never forget, we were headed into church one day and my two younger kids turned to me like, oh yeah, Mom, we forgot to tell you. We've been talking about it. Seriously, we've been talking about it and we've decided that we don't want to take piano anymore. We're kind of done with piano. And I said, oh, fascinating. No, you're still going to do piano. End of discussion. It was pretty funny. My other child tried that, but he's a little bit more manipulative. And he said, I'd rather take guitar. How about if I start taking guitar? And I said, I think guitar is an excellent instrument to complement your piano lessons. And that was the end of that. So just remember, you're the parent. You're the parent. You make decisions. And I encourage you, make those decisions calmly. Don't react. You don't need to feed into whatever drama your children might try to create. It's not necessary. So it's just very calm. Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. No, we're going to keep doing piano. It's good for you. Yeah, that's my decision. So I encourage you with that. Let's see. Now I've just gone on and on. I think that'll be I think we'll be done for today. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Sorbo, obviously. Please subscribe on the channel. Also, feel free to message me or send me emails. Go to samsorbo.com. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about loss versus opportunity and different areas that you can where you can invest during this time, because you're out of school, the kids are out of that institution, and so there are plenty of opportunities, and I want to share some of those with you and share a few stories. You can get my book at samsorbo.com. You can go to my official Facebook page and like me there and get updates that way. If you sign up for the newsletter, or if you message me on samsorbo.com, you'll get signed up for the newsletter. That would be great, and I can apprise you of further adventures in this homeschooling journey. I predict that we are going to have a lot of people joining the homeschool community. When you have the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, come out and actually recommend homeschooling with a sly smile, because it's like the furthest thing from his mind. He doesn't support homeschoolers, but he has to now because of this this terrible virus that he has no control over. It's pretty amazing. So remember, pick your location. Don't think of it as a very long day. Think of it as a short day, especially for you as the school teacher and administrator. It's not a long day for you. You're in a supervisory capacity, okay? The answers are in the textbooks, and if you don't have textbooks, you'll improvise by going online and finding classic literature, or going to the library and getting classic literature. Get math workbooks for your kids, or print them out. Actually, you can print out math worksheets from online for free. You can just print them out. In fact, there are websites, I used to do this. There are websites that generate math work. Oh, you want multiplication tables up to 12? Okay, here you go. Boom. And it generates both the worksheet and the answer sheet. So yeah, okay, this is going to be a little bit labor intensive, but think about what you're giving up. You don't have to get the kids ready to go to school anymore. You don't have to drive them to school. You don't have to make lunches. You don't have to, I don't know, all the other things that are so intensive for a typical parent that takes their children to school. So enjoy this time. Come back tomorrow for another video. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm out of here.